Did you know the LA Kings have their own culinary partner? It's Superfood, celebrating 10 years and over 1 million meals served. Since 2020, the Kings have trusted Superfood to fuel their players. Now through Simply Lunch, you can bring that same performance-driven food to your office. Because when people eat better, they work better. Visit mysuperfood.com. That's mysuperfd.com. Or call 213-973-6145. Qualified companies can enjoy a free lunch for up to 10 managers.
You're listening to All the Kings Men, the official podcast of the LA Kings. Now, here's your host, Jesse Cohen.
All right, it's Monday morning. That means it's time to crown a King of the Week. Joining me again to help out is Taylor Paerels. How are you doing today, Taylor? Excuse me.
I'm doing well.
And for those who may not be familiar with Taylor, he is LA Kings Uniform History on Twitter. And I'm assuming, I know I asked you this last time, but I forgot. I'm assuming you're on other platforms as well.
Yeah, I'm on Instagram as well.
Okay, perfect. So we are looking at it's a 2-game week. It's a very short week, but it is a week, so we got to do it. So it's 2 wins, the win against the New York Rangers and then the shootout victory over the St. Louis Blues. I'm just going to get this out of the way, Taylor. I listen, they got 4 points, so that's 4 points out of 4 points, but I don't feel great about those 4 points. So
yeah, definitely 2 games that they had to win. They did. They got the 4 points, but again, against teams like the Rangers and the Blues that are that far down in the standings, you would hope that they would have had better games than just a 1-goal win over the Rangers and then having to go all the way to a shootout against the Blues and a bit of a shootout.
Yeah, and I saw somebody on Twitter reply to it, or maybe it was a different platform. Sorry if I'm getting this person's place wrong, but they said, oh, look, it was an overtime of an overtime of an overtime because it was the 4th round of the shootout, which you only go to the shootout after overtime. And I was like, yeah. And honestly, at this point in my life, I've just decided once the game is ending in a tie after 60 minutes, it's just a tie. Yeah. But anyway, doesn't matter. So we'll start with you. You know the routine. Who was your honorable mention for this week?
My honorable mention, I've got Taylor Ward. He had a good week, 4th line overall. Just kind of shout out to all of them on that line with Malott and Hellenius. They connected on 2 goals. Ward was the beneficiary of both of them. Mm-hmm. In that game against the Rangers, had the Kings held on to win 4-2, he would have had the game winner with that one. So I thought just really effective by that trio and Ward especially.
His name will come up again, so I'm not going to pile on too much. But Ward I thought had a great week. And I didn't hear it myself, but in the St. Louis game, Foegele did not play. And I'm told, I guess I missed it in the pregame. I guess they said on the pregame that that because Trevor Moore was coming back, they needed to make room in the roster, and they wanted to keep that 4th line together, Ward, Hellenius, and Malott, that had been playing so well. And, I spoke to Coach Hiller after the practice, I think after the Rangers game, I believe, if I have the timing correctly. And I just said to him, you said you wouldn't be playing the 4th line center very often, but injuries have caused it, have caused players that you wouldn't ordinarily see in the lineup to come into the lineup, and they have all played well. Have they played well enough for you to reconsider your position earlier? And he said, yeah, that he had spoken to Ken Holland and the coaching staff had talked, and that they would, in fact, like to keep that line together. And they did against the Blues, and Taylor Ward scored again. So, yeah, I think that's a perfectly good pick. My honorable mention is Trevor Moore, who I just referenced, because he came back into the lineup. He did score the game-winning goal, scored the shootout goal that winds up being the deciding goal in the shootout that gives the Kings the extra 2 points, or the extra 1 point in that game. And, I just thought, good for him. It's been a while. He's been out there for practice and then not played. He's been on the injured reserve. There's been a lot of mystery and rumor surrounding, why he might not have been in the lineup. We're still not 100% sure, but I thought good for him to come back in and have an impact as soon as he returned. So he's my honorable mention.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for much more for as much time as he's missed to jump right back in, get that goal, get the team going late in the game, and then absolutely in that the overtime of the overtime of the overtime to come in clutch and get that shootout winner. when he wasn't even in the lineup the previous game or the previous week.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I thought looked very much like himself. He hasn't played a lot since the trade of Phil Deneau, so we still don't know exactly where his place in the roster is, but obviously he's important. So he was sort of, I think he was with Byfield and Armia, which is I feel like it's a relatively new line for him.
Mm-hmm.
So good for him. All right, your runner-up then, Taylor.
My runner-up, I've got Anton Forsberg coming in relief of Kemper in that Ranger game when he wasn't expected to. Played 2 periods and really carried the team to that win. I felt 27 saves in 40 minutes of work and 27 seconds away from not even allowing a goal at all. Yeah. He just really helps to stabilize the team, just kind of put them all on his back. Just rode him to that win.
And it's silly, but I mean, he gets the win because the Kings allowed the 3rd goal. So because he was in the game when the 4th goal is scored, that becomes the game winner. So they need to fix the system by which they give wins and goals and everything. But yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I had forgotten that he had come in for relief of Kemper. And, we did find out that the Kemper situation was scary. And Forsberg, I was wondering during the game, and maybe the 3rd goal is my fault for thinking about this. Maybe I should have just waited for the game to be over. But I did start to wonder how much time, and I'm sure there's an answer for this. Maybe it can't be a full 60 minutes because if a goalie gets pulled or if there's a delayed penalty, whatever, the minutes come off the clock. But how much time does a goalie have to play to get credit for a shutout?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, I think it's one of those where it's probably, he didn't play the full 60, but
yeah, it's got to be at least. I mean, I don't know. I'll have to look into it, but I mean, obviously he didn't qualify, and they scored the goal against him late in the game anyway. But another really strong performance from Anton Forsberg, called in to fill in, and held it down. So that's an excellent pick. My runner-up is Brandt Clarke. I don't rely on numbers a ton when I do these. It's more of a feel thing, and I have some goofy rules, but 2 assists, 2 points, and a +5.
Yeah.
In 2 games. He was +3 in the Rangers game. He was +2 in the Blues game. He set up that first goal. Was it 18 seconds into the game, I think, against the Rangers? Yeah, really nice pass to Adrian Kempe in that Rangers game. Just a really heads-up play. And I just think Brandt Clarke, I mean, I've seen people talk about it for weeks and weeks and weeks now. Brandt Clarke might be the most consistent across the board player that the Kings have right now. I mean, when he's on the ice, good things are happening. And I just thought this was another example of it. I'm not sure that they get the full 4 points out of this 2-game week without the strong play of Brandt Clarke. So he's my runner-up.
Yeah. And I mean, if you want to roll into it as my pick, then for
perfect
King of the Week,
yeah,
I have Brandt Clarke. Just 92. He's on a roll. He's just a monster right now. Those 2 assists, like you said, without his work on those, I mean, good start versus the Rangers. Gets that late lead on the Moore goal. Also looked up, he tied with the team lead with 6 shots, 4 blocks, just adds to his totals that he was already leading the team, or at least the defense in, and not out for any goals against. So, I mean, he's used situationally, but why not, if he's not out there for any right now, the late leads that seem to be evaporating, why not put out him a little bit more?
No, I mean, the biggest mystery of the season is, he not only does he have the lowest goals against, I think, of all the 6 defensemen at 5-5, but he's also, and I couldn't actually believe this when I looked it up earlier this week, he's leading the team in block shots.
Yeah.
But like a fair margin. And so you just go, okay, well, why? So he's playing, obviously we know about his offensive abilities, but his defensive abilities seem to suggest that he has become the player that everybody says he will become one day. And yeah, so then the question, and Jim Miller was asked about it at the end of the New York game, and he said something about having other players who play certain roles and are certain sizes and whatever. Brant Clark's 6'2", he's 200 pounds. He's not a small guy. And I mean, he didn't exactly get in a fight, but he stuck up for a teammate in the St. Louis game, Neighbors. Obviously scared him enough that he waved off the fight, but I mean, he got involved. Like, he's not a small, timid person by any stretch of the imagination. So,
yeah, and I appreciated that he did step up on that hit against Perry to drop the gloves, even though you only got a double minor for roughing. Just the leadership quality in that too, to stand up for a teammate. Appreciate seeing that, and I did check. Yeah, he leads in blocks by 13 over Anderson. So it's just ridiculous.
And if you look at the per 60, he leads that as well by like
absolutely
an equally wide margin. No, it's crazy. I mean, he's very clearly become the player that they keep saying that he will maybe one day become. It's like, no, he is. So let's start treating him that way. I mean, like, and where would the harm be in playing him one penalty kill shift a game, right? I'm not asking him to become the dominant number 1D on the team, although a lot of people I'm sure would. But let's just, let's try it out because, I was looking like he does have the predominantly his zone starts are in the offensive zone, but not by a huge margin, right? Like it's not like his 95% of his zone starts are in the offensive zone. And despite that, he still winds up blocking more shots than anybody on the team. So he's obviously playing some amount of time in his own zone. So let's just give it a shot. Anyway, that's an excellent pick. Unfortunately, you've already mentioned the king of the week, and it is Taylor Ward, because 2 goals, the first goal against the Blues, and then the third goal, which could have been the game winning, but at the very least it was, the turning the tide, to finally start putting the Rangers back. This is a guy, and I want to give credit to Jared Shaffrin, because a few years ago when Jared Shaffrin came to the organization, he was working for the Reign at the time, and he asked me about Sean Dursey, and I laughed and I said, no chance. And then obviously Sean Dursey's had the career he's had. Jared Shaffrin has been touting Taylor Ward for a year and a half now, maybe longer, I don't remember. But like every time we would talk about, well, who might get called up? Well, they signed all these players in the offseason. You've got, Gutman and Logan Brown, and maybe Martin Kromiak might earn a call up, and Andre Lee obviously has had some experience, and all these names would get tossed about, Jeff Malott and Glenn Godden and all these guys with NHL experience. And Jared Shaffrin would always sit there and be like, Taylor Ward looks pretty good, plays the game the right way, does all these things. Like the guys that work in Ontario and have worked for the Reign just love Taylor Ward. So it's really nice to see Taylor Ward rewarded, and more importantly, nice to see Taylor Ward reward the Kings for their faith in him. What does he have? 3 goals this season? 2 big ones this week. And again, not small. And he comes in, and I asked Hiller again about this after the practice the other day. I said, Hellenius seems to play better when he's playing with players who are of his same mold, right? When he's playing with tall physical players, that seems to increase his impact on the game. When he's playing with smaller players, I'm not sure he necessarily knows what to do. So that goal that Taylor Ward scored, the first goal in the St. Louis game, they win the face-off, fine. The shot, nothing happens. St. Louis, musters the puck and starts to try and break out of the zone, but Hellenius pokes it back in. Right. Hellenius has that step-up play at the blue line. Malott and Ward go in to score the goal. That's a forechecking fourth line goal. Like, that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I don't know that Hellenius does that if he's on a line with a Kromiak and a, Arvidsson or Lizotte or, some other smaller player. So for whatever. Anyway, congratulations, Taylor Ward, this week's King of the Week. Taylor, different Taylor. Obviously, you're not Taylor Ward. You're Taylor Paerels. But I wanted to talk about an article you wrote documenting the. I don't like it when people call them color rush games, because that to me feels like a very distinct NFL marketing term. Yeah. But the color versus color games, the Kings and Ducks played one. I thought they were going to play 2, but it turns out they just played 1. but you went ahead and documented all the times in franchise history that it's happened. How do you even go? Like, how do you even start looking back? You've got a 1967 preseason game. The Kings wearing purple, the North Stars wearing green. How do you even? Surely you're not going through game by game. There's been thousands of games.
Yeah, definitely the early days of the games. There's not a lot. You just stumble upon them over the 7 or 8 years or so that I've been looking at photos and tracking everything. I have it now where I can pull any game. I have what the Kings did, or at least should have worn in that game, unless I find photo evidence otherwise. And so that was one that I don't remember if I stumbled across it or I saw it on another site. But just, Kings in purple, North Stars in green. Based on the look of the photo, couldn't have been at any of the Kings home arenas their first season. So process of elimination on some of these just to get to where we are. And that's where I've got the other preseason game where, the Kings in their 50th anniversary said, Kings Flyers first ever game. And it's got videos of both teams in purple and orange respectively, but it doesn't look like Long Beach. So, and I think there's something with the number font that's I haven't tracked as extensively, but it's just like, that's got to be preseason. So
now, have you seen the guy on social media? I can't remember what platform I saw him on, but his whole shtick is he'll find games being played in the background of movies or TV shows.
Yes, I have.
And then he will figure out exactly which game it is, and it's, I don't know. I just throwing it out there. You might want to try and
there's a King game somewhere in a show.
Some questions I had though about the article. So, for example, in more recent seasons, you list the 2019-20 Stadium Series, or rather the 2013-2014 Stadium season, gray versus orange. Now, in my mind, because those jerseys didn't have another version, right? There wasn't a dark or light version. The jerseys are just gray. In my mind, that doesn't really count, but it did for you. Any thought behind where you draw the line on specialty jerseys that didn't have a road or a home version? They were just single-use jerseys.
I think in that situation, it's more of a non-white jersey, just to differentiate them, and especially because of the Kings' history wearing gold, wearing the Forum blue or purple. They definitely haven't stuck to more traditional norms of what is and isn't a home or road uniform. And especially with the gray, since they've worn it now in a couple different versions for their 50th anniversary, and then later is just an alternate. Those ones were only ever worn against teams' white jerseys, white uniforms. So just a way of designating, okay, they're not a traditional white jersey. They don't have white socks or any other elements that would designate them that way. So they're a dark jersey, dark uniform. So that's typically where I draw the line on those.
And I did like that you mentioned that from 1967 to 1988, every game was color and color because the Kings didn't have a white jersey; they wore yellow. And you and I have talked about this before. I think they should wear, the reverse retro 2.0, which is just the white version of their 80s era jerseys, and then I guess the purple versions. Although I know we've talked about this before, but I'll just bring it up again here. Where do you come down on the concept of switching back to wearing light jerseys at home and dark jerseys on the road?
I like the idea. It just depends on what it is. I think if you look at the Kings' current uniform setup, the white is good. I don't think it's quite as good as the original version they wore in the 80s and 90s, but yeah, why not? Then you can see these teams. You can see Anaheim in orange, San Jose in teal, and the last several years when they would wear the new version of that 80s look at home, and those teams would bring their dark uniforms. It was a welcome sight to see that much color in those games at crypto.
And I know you've agreed with me on my theory that every team should wear one set of jerseys. No team should be allowed to wear black. And then every Saturday night, the home team, whatever arena, whatever market, should be given the option, if you want to, Saturday nights, you're allowed to wear black. That way, all 32 teams get a black jersey. Because all 32 fan bases clearly want a black version of their jersey.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only through commitment to tradition or whatever that teams like Montreal have never done a black version of their jersey, but tons of teams have done a black version of their jersey at one point or another. And this way you just say, listen, if you want to, you can. All 32 teams get it. Do it like, because eventually, I've heard the rumor that they're going to do not reverse retro, but something retro remix or home remix
the rumor is the hometown remix series, and right. There's quite a few teams that don't or haven't traditionally worn black that are going to introduce one supposedly.
Right. No, because everybody wants. I mean, this is part of the reason that I hate black jerseys, and I roll my eyes whenever certain city officials bring up that black looks better with everything. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, but this isn't seventh grade fashion. It's professional sports. Like, I want color and pageantry. I don't want Hot Topic. But everybody wants a black version, so give it to everybody. Let everybody have it. Fine. Yeah,
they want to wear it once in a while, sure, but I don't want to see the Rangers in black every game. I don't want to see Montreal in black.
Or Chicago or any of those teams. Yeah, it's goofy. And give every team a color that they primarily identify with. And on the rare occasions, or maybe it won't be that rare, but on the occasions where you have red versus red or blue versus blue, have a light version of that. Have a so it doesn't, because I mean the way it is now, it's just chaos. You never know, and I mean I guess it doesn't matter. Except there's 82 games a year, and all of a sudden we're getting all these bonkers things. And there were some people who were very excited about the black versus orange of the Kings game. I was on the East Coast with my family watching it when that game happened, and a lot of my family who don't watch a lot of hockey were looking at it going, "Why does it look like Halloween?" I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Orange on black is not that pretty. It's an interesting novelty, but it wasn't exactly like
It
didn't look as good as the red versus blue matchups that they've done.
No, the times earlier this year when the Rangers and Red Wings played in they're both 100th anniversary ones.
Right.
Beautiful matchup. Purple or black versus orange. Yeah, novelty, but it's not going to be the best of the options if you can have two dark uniforms.
And I will say this about the Ducks orange outfits, because I can't remember which family member it was, or maybe it was a family friend, I don't remember. But somebody was asking, like, why do they wear orange now? And I said, well, it's a marketing decision because they don't want, because Anaheim, no disrespect to the city or citizens of Anaheim, but like Orange County has a cultural identity.
Right.
Anaheim, outside of being Disneyland, doesn't. Anaheim, Fullerton, Seal Beach, Irvine, Huntington Beach, it's just Orange County, right? Like, it's so they're leaning into the Orange County. They call it Orange Country, and now they wear a lot of orange and good, whatever. I don't know if they think that, if their marketing team thinks that's what's gonna resonate with their fans, more power to them. But I still think purple versus orange, as jarring as it might be visually, still more interesting than black and orange. Anyway, Taylor, thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Of course. Happy to be here.
And I'm glad, honestly, I'm really glad that you and I both had Clark and Ward, because the end result is that Ward and Clark both wind up with the same amount of points as I arbitrarily decide to award them.
Just flip-flop them, that's all.
Yeah, but I mean that's good, because those two really were the standout players for the week. So I like it. All right, appreciate it. Thanks for joining me, Taylor, and we'll talk to you soon, Kings.